Welcome back to another Cozy Cafe chat. Grab your coffee and join us for a philosophical and silly discussion. I'm Aiden.
That's wrong.
Just kidding, I'm Lena.
I made him. That was a test.
Let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about our trip to Mexico in, when was it? 2016?
It was
2017.
January of 2017. Took me a minute.
I don't know anything. We're going to be talking about that, giving all of the spoilerific detail in case you haven't watched it yet. I don't know what I'm saying. But first, what are we drinking?
I'll go. Well, I'm really proud of myself for not finishing this entire drink. This was really hard for me. I've had this for almost 2 hours now. So I figured in going with the consumerism and capitalism of the holidays to get a drink from my favorite coffee chain, which is Pete's. Pete's and Joy. Isn't that just so clever? But yeah, I mentioned, I think it was our first episode when we were talking about our trajectories with coffee. As far as coffee chains go, Pete's is my favorite. They have really good coffee, y'all. Like, let's be honest. When I want espresso, I go there. There's also one, I just burped. There's also one like right by my condo. They also have really good matcha, but I was like, okay, coffee. So I got an iced cappuccino. Cappuccinos were like my favorite espresso drink, and iced coffee is my favorite kind of way of drinking coffee. With soy milk. I usually do oat milk. Can get into that, but I wanted a little protein, so I did soy milk. It's been really good. So I haven't finished it yet. That's what I'm drinking. What about you?
Well, I didn't feel like getting another drink, so this is my old drink that I've already finished drinking earlier today. It's from Gregorys again, because it's across from where I am right now, so it's easy to get to. What did I order? It's just like a special brew called Los Chelazos. I don't know. It's good. And then I got like it with an oat olay. Is that how you say that in French?
Olay.
Olay.
Oh, olay. Oh, like AULAIT.
How do you say it?
Oh yeah, it's French for like with milk.
Okay.
Like, or like a way of preparing milk in coffee drinks,
coffee.
like cafe. Yeah.
Okay, well that's what I drink today. I'm gonna pretend to continue to. I'm just gonna drink water, but it was very good. As is most Gregory's coffee. I feel like keep saying like we're gonna promote like small places.
And it's like the same. And here I am with Pete's. I even had I made the conscious choice. I'm like, do I go to one of the many local independent coffee shops, or do I go to Pete's? But I like had this whole justified circle of like why it's good and okay for me to drink Pete's today. I'm like, drink what you want to drink, but it, I'm like illustrating this is my favorite coffee chain and I do drink coffee. So yeah,
you're not alone. Also, I have to share, I don't think anybody else can hear it, but I'm in Manhattan and there is somebody has been pressing on the horn now for about 30 to 45 seconds, not stopping.
Just like nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's people adding to the chorus. Oh, they're stopping. Okay, whatever.
I can't hear.
Oh, wait, no, it's still happening. Never mind. Okay, this is the beautiful sounds of the city.
Wow.
Nature's finest. All right. Anyway,
nature's
I don't even know what that means. Okay, enough about coffee in Manhattan. Time for a brief check-in. What are we checking in about? Aiden, what do you have to say?
I mean, I could share a lot of personal information because who gives a fuck? This contains a lot of personal information. I mean, I'm just chilling at home. I got an IUD today, so that was fun. No, it wasn't fun. It was fine. I have a day off today, so I'm hanging out. I trying to think of like brief updates. I finished my grad school applications, so that was like a big thing for me. It was very much relief. Still waiting on a few letters of rec, which is so annoying. It's like I can submit the apps, but then it's like the recommenders still have to get theirs in. Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly really enjoying the holidays, even though obviously I'm still working, but I do really love the Christmas season and all that. So just been trying to survive and thrive, which is very hard to do both. I'm sure I could get into more, but that's like the general update check-in where I'm at the present moment. What about you, Lena?
A very good update.
Thanks. Succinct. What do you say?
I was going to say that, but then I didn't. Why? I don't know. Let's see what is happening. I'm doing pretty well. Work is going well. I'm gonna go home for the Christmas break, which will be nice. Or for Christmas, I guess. It's not really a break.
I know it's not like school break. I keep saying that, like Christmas break, Thanksgiving break. It's like, no, it's a few days off.
I'm creating that. Yeah, that's a couple days. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting out of the cold. It's cold here. Though I will say,
sorry, totally interrupted.
it's like it's been like the last couple of days. It's been between like 30 and like high 40s. So like, I mean, it hasn't been the coldest it could be, but it's not great. Lots of New Yorkers that I talk to, they're like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm like, it's bad for me.
It's bad for me. Yeah.
But I actually like it. I will say I definitely feel more like in the Christmas spirit because it's cold. Like that feels more cool. And I'm staying here longer than I have any time since I've like moved here. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, really not a whole lot. Not a whole lot going on. Looking forward to that trip. I have no other thoughts. I'm gonna go to a notebook store after this and get some notebooks. So I'm excited about that.
That is so exciting. What store?
I don't know. Rachel showed it to me. So
it's a notebook store. That's what matters.
The notebook store. We've been there before and I like it. Whenever we go somewhere, I just like aimlessly walk and she guides because I don't want to have to pay attention. As one does.
As one does. Always.
All right. On that riveting note, let's get into today's topic. So we're talking about the January 2017. It was for a month. Mexico trip. We went because at our school we had a Jan term, which was like for a month in January. Shocking. And I'm trying to think how to explain this. We went to study abroad for a month and we stayed with the host family in Cuernavaca. Don't know why I had to think about that. But we also spent like what 2 days or something in Mexico City.
Yeah, we flew in and out of Mexico City, so we spent like 2 nights there.
Yeah, and then we went to Acapulco one day.
Yeah,
that was fun. That was really fun.
Yeah,
so we'll talk more about it, but that was the general gist of the trip. Yeah. What was the class name again?
It was called Mexico Tradition and Modernity.
That's
not maternity. It sounds like that.
With a D. Well, and what was do you remember the book that we read? There was a really good book.
Yes. So we read, one was called Mañana Forever. And then one was called Mexico Profundo.
That's right. That one was really good.
That was really good. That one was really good. That was like the first one we read, and we had to read before the class started. And then we had a couple that we read during the class while in Mexico. And Mañana Forever was one of them. They're all at my family's house in SLO. I could have like gone to my bookshelf and grabbed them, but they're not here. But I know, Mexico Profundo. What was the name in English? I don't remember.
Profound Mexico.
Deep Mexico.
I don't think so. I think it was like Mexico. I don't remember. I didn't even remember either of those names until you just said them. Well, because you had the books in Spanish, right?
Yeah.
And I did not, because my Spanish is not that good. Though it got better on that trip.
It got incredibly better. It like your Spanish just soared during that trip.
And it's gone downhill. I'm
You
not
get it up
practicing.
again.
I can.
Yep,
I keep
messed
telling
up.
you that we need to practice and you don't talk to me. You're supposed to do this for me.
Oh, I'm supposed to just take charge.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that memo. I will. Let's do the podcast in Spanish now.
No, that's not, I'm not embarrassing myself right now. We can do our goodbye. I don't think I can translate it now that I say it out loud.
I
Can you?
think you can. We'll do that.
We'll try it. Okay.
I'll do it at least.
Okay. I'll move my mouth and you talk. That'll be
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
okay. We'll cut
Watermelon.
well, okay. Where to even begin? Do you want to start with the class? Do you want to start with like being there? Because we did like so much.
We did so much. And I also, want to, because here's the thing that I should state. This trip, like, profoundly impacted us in so many ways. To this day, like, I kid you not, we bring up jokes like from that trip, random anecdotes and stories. We have so many inside jokes that of course that's what an inside joke is, no one else would find funny or get. So it's like very much still present with us. So that's why, like, and so many different aspects, because there were the more speaking of profound like identity oriented, cultural experiences and conversations and dialogues. And then there was also just like the random shit we did and talked about and laughed about, and it like all definitely impacted us. So it's just like that's why we're talking about something from 2017, because it was a really cool experience that we would like to share, and brings up a lot of interesting topics, and also just like it's still like very present with us. So I mean, I could give a little overview of the class, because the topics are very interesting, relevant, and pertain to a lot of what we talk about in this podcast. So that's kind of another reason why we're bringing it up. And then we can, because I don't know if anyone wants to hear like a play-by-play of like, oh, this day we did this day we did that,
Right.
like, and I don't even think, well, you wouldn't remember.
I do remember a lot actually about like the day-to-day stuff. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember hardly anything about the class. But I think what we could do maybe is like talk. I like how we're deciding all this now.
Deciding, yeah.
Welcome behind the curtain, guys. So I think that you give an overview of the class. If I have anything else to say, which I don't think I will, I'll say it about that. And then why don't we like kind of go like for a couple minutes, like back and forth with like most like significant memories from it, like things that really stuck with us. And that could like lead into something else, or that could be it, depending.
Definitely. I also think that we need to give a shout out to Profe. Professor Alvaro Ramirez. He's the OG. He was like the star of this. I mean, he is our professor from St. Mary's Spanish department, who does this trip. So he's from Mexico. He still goes there all the time. He takes his Jantrum classes there, and also does a study abroad. I mean, I say this as if this were happening in the present moment. I don't know. I've been out of St. Mary's for a couple years. But from my understanding in the past, so does a study abroad there every other year in Cuernavaca specifically. So like he has connections, family, like it's his second home. So he's just very much very, very kind of first of all, super, super intelligent, but also very just like droll, like has a sense of humor, is very funny, but is also just like appears very serious, very intense, is a very hard professor. Like his classes are not like, that's the thing about this we spent a lot of time studying, gonna be honest with you. Like he makes you learn your shit, he calls people out, but you love him too. So like he just imagine this man like kind of helping create this whole experience, also driving us like up a wall sometimes, but like love him. So I mean, it was a really interesting topic that the whole idea with tradition and modernity is, I mean, just examining how Mexico's history has contributed to like where the country is today, socially, politically, economically, and like this sort of tension between preserving this tradition, like historical, cultural, and also modernizing essentially. So it's like that's why it's tradition and modernity, because it's kind of like the interplay of these two states and states of being. And also acknowledging, and I think this was a huge takeaway for me, and may also just sound like an obvious realization, but you know, we have a lot of preconceived notions and generalizations being in the US, like just how much diversity and variation there is throughout the country of Mexico. And it's like there are areas where, you know, the even ancient history of Mexico is very much present, very much preserved. And then there's other areas where there appear to be hardly any traces of it. Again, that's kind of generalizing, but I think one would say, even though there is a lot of older history in Mexico City, that they now call the term for it, or the word for it is label CDMX. It used to be DF, but that's just like they kind of rebranded, which is really interesting too. The city has kind of rebranded. And part of that rebranding is like the modernizing. So it's like, it's very much a bustling metropolis. It's a huge city. Like actually, I believe fits the definition of mega city as like there being around 10 million people there. So a lot of spots in the city, it's like you see that it's very urban, it's very modernized, presence of technology in a lot of different ways. And then, I mean, there's the freaking like Pirámide del Sol, like all of the pyramids in Mexico, like there is still very much that indigenous presence. Of course, there's like a tension there too, but a lot of that history is preserved and is a part of like the sort of like daily landscape of Mexico. But there's that kind of interplay. So I could get into that more, but that was the general. There was a lot in that class. We had to learn like the history of Mexico. Like we had a freaking test on that. Like it was a lot. So it was like a mix of there were a lot of elements of anthropology, history, politics, kind of all interwoven to this lovely package that was our Jan term class. But yeah, we had like class meetings before we actually went to Mexico. And when we were in Mexico, like Lena said, we were studying abroad. So we lived with host families, went to this local university that was like a university and also like an international school. And we had a class with our professor. And then we had a Spanish class based on our level with a professor from the school. So that's kind of how it was all organized and structured. And that's kind of the material that we got into in the class. And I mean, the specifics, I could not tell you the cultural history of Mexico. I wish, because it was really cool to learn all that.
I know.
You know, a lot of the main themes, as I'm expressing now, still remain with me somewhat.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I know I feel like doubly bad. I think that I'm like, oh, like I don't remember the history of my people.
Yeah, you should feel bad.
I know. I do feel bad. No, but it's funny. It's something that always stuck with me, and I don't remember the exact terminology that it was in the book. And I think that this is like something related to the title, in English of the book, the book that you had mentioned. But there was something about like the like imaginary like mestiza, and like the idea that like this like kind of narrative around like being like the mixed population in Mexico, and this idea that like there's this like, you know, kind of actually it feels similar a little bit to the like melting pot like ideals of the United States, whereas this idea of like, oh, like we're mixed and like we embrace our indigenous heritage, but we're also like European, and ooh, how interesting. But then in reality, there's this kind of idea of like the like I forgot what the terminology was for it, but like that like the idea that basically like indigenous Mexicans are kind of in this mythology, like assumed to like non-exist, and it's like a historical image.
Yes.
And then because of that, there's kind of this like erasure of like actual like living indigenous Mexicans and like cultures within Mexico. And that like there's also kind of this idea of like, well, we want like the like pretty and interesting parts of like indigeneity, but not like any of the like lived realities of being
Absolutely.
indigenous. Yeah.
Yes, that was such a significant aspect of it, of the reading, but just like takeaways from the class and kind of seeing while being there. And yeah, just how there is so much of that almost, well, yeah, not almost, definitely a commodification of indigeneity, like through tourism, like how the uh, I guess like appealing or parts of indigenous history and culture and identity um, were taken, appropriated, packaged nicely for tourists to consume, essentially, and how the erasure of indigeneity in Mexico is done. It's like what is erased and what is validated is, at often the will and convenience of those in power, and also going along with how there is definitely, as there is nearly everywhere, like there is a lot of colorism, racism and colorism in Mexico too, and how it's like the darker complexion historically has not been the darker complexion that is often characteristic of indigenous identities is not seen as, wanted or preferred, which is so often the case like in other parts of the world. So that was definitely all part of it. And there is, yeah, it's like this idealizing but also erasing and othering all at the same time.
Yeah, that was a really good book. I like want to reread it. I don't remember if I still have it. I like kind of hope I do, but
I feel like you do. Or I feel like I weirdly might have two copies because I have the copy because I think that I got it in English and then I realized I could read it in Spanish for Spanish credit. So that's why the class, it was cool because some of us in the class were Spanish majors and minors. And so we could take the class for Spanish credit. So I did all the readings and the tests and everything in Spanish, which was really interesting. And it was challenging, not because Spanish is like equally a dominant language for me, but it meant translating a lot. Like the test questions, for example, were all in English and I had to respond in Spanish. Like that worked my brain in a whole different way. So all that goes to say, yeah, it was a very, very interesting book and a lot of interesting topics. I think that kind of brings me to something I did want to bring up that's both like somewhat intellectually stimulating, but also rather entertaining was for us, and was how Profe just like really got to people and really had people questioning their identities. Do you remember that? How it's like he was basically, and I will say this, like he has said and done some somewhat, there were things that he'd say that we were kind of questioning of like, oh, is that problematic? At the same time, it's like he is like just very much no nonsense, like this is how it is. And it was really interesting because a lot of the discussions that we had in class were around what does it mean to be Mexican, and his argument was that you're not really Mexican if you have had no experience living, growing up, existing in Mexico, which frankly was very offensive to a lot of people in our class. And I say this kind of like somewhat in an amused way because on the one hand, like it's not okay, I fully believe Lena has all the right to say they're Mexican, like absolutely. What he was trying to get people to see was like, you can't claim the experience of being Mexican in the sense that a person born and raised living in Mexico can. It is a fundamentally different experience. And so that was something that was really interesting because for me as somebody, I could relate a lot to it in the sense of grappling with my hybrid hyphenated identity, as a Latinx American person. With white privilege, as Lena and I have talked about a lot. Other folks in our class, less of the white privilege, but definitely still the like hyphenated identities, or not even necessarily. A lot of our classmates were fully Mexican, you know, whatever that may mean, but born and raised in the US and had a lot of Mexican pride. But our professor kind of like urged us to sort of, or them, depending on, you know, who we're talking about here, to like unpack that Mexican pride. Like, where does that come from? What is that pride about? Like, basically, like, what do you know about Mexico? So it was really interesting. I don't know. What do you feel about that? And also, as somebody with Mexican heritage, how was that experience for you? Because I know we were kind of in a different place than other classmates.
I think that's true. I think what's funny is I literally forgot about this until you just mentioned it.
But do you remember what I'm talking about? Where people were just like, oh my God.
It's in my brain now.
Yes.
And I can't get it out.
Yes.
No, actually, like, I think that for me, see, because like, okay, whenever I say Mexican, I always say that with the caveat of like, that there's like a hyphen American, right? Like, and
Yes.
could I be better about literally saying that? Yeah. But like, I know that, and I've always known that. And to be honest, I've never thought of myself in a sense of, and also part of that is because of being mixed, right? It's like, I also feel like somewhat disconnected on a different level, because it's like, not only am I born and raised in the United States, but also like, I am literally like, I have had more kind of like levels of like, disconnect with certain cultural aspects just because of like the mix and like all the things that come up in like family dynamics. But I thought that was like great, honestly. Like, and I think that there's something about like, yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, like we can say whatever we want, right? So like I can, and I don't, but I can say Mexican and mean like Mexican and not mean Mexican American. Like, right? Like, does everybody have a right to say everything? I mean, legally, there's some qualms there, but like, right? Like in this sense, yeah, you do. But I also think that like in the same way, you have a right that like, not a right, but like it is reasonable then for somebody else to be like, hold on, I'm checking you on this. Like that's just the nature of like everything in life. I mean, it's like, it's an unfortunate reality to some degree, but also it's kind of important. And like, what is the world if we're not like called on stuff and like called to like explore more and like investigate more? And to be honest, it was kind of funny because I think for me, I felt the opposite of what I think some other people felt, which was like, I through the trip felt more connected to being Mexican American and Mexican, and like I felt more connected in this way, almost of like, you know how when you the like saying of like, you don't know how much you didn't know until you start learning stuff, and then you start to see yourself as like knowing less because there's so much more to learn. I think that process happened for me, like identity wise. I definitely felt more connected in a lot of ways than I ever had, but at the same time I recognized like, yeah, I am literally like disconnected from this lived experience. And what does it mean? I mean, I think that nowadays, I don't really exactly say this, but like, I think probably the identity that fits most accurately to like me is like Chicanx, like, you know what I mean? That feels more accurate. But I don't know. It was very interesting. I think that being called on your stuff sucks. And sometimes it's not always done in the best ways. But like, I think that like we need to do it for others and for ourselves more. And like, that's kind of like what I think that process was.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, it is a lot of, like you said, like check yourself. Like it is a lot of checking privilege, because it's like acknowledging that just like by living in the US and specifically, and that doesn't mean just like by living in the US, you have more privilege than someone living in Mexico. Like that's not at all what I'm saying, but just like those of us in this Jantrim class, just being able to, first of all, getting the education we were getting and got, and also being there in Mexico for Jantrim, taking that class, you know, living with host families, like that in of itself is such an indicator of a lot of privilege. And so it was kind of like, check yourself, check your privilege, and you have to acknowledge that like you don't have the same lived experience as the people literally living in your host family's neighborhood in Cuernavaca. So I thought it was really powerful. And I like, as a non-Mexican, but Latinx person of hyphenated identity, you know, mixed, easier to say it that way. I kind of had a somewhat similar experience to Lena, and just feeling like it was really interesting because I felt different, kind of like different elements of that, and also at certain points feeling very white and knowing like it's really like just, you know, being slapped in the face with my white privilege and like socioeconomic privilege. Like that was a very significant element too. But also realizing like there are so many, like, even, okay, I think I'm leaning into talking about the, like, I like that this just comes into my brain, but our CrossFit gym, and realizing like we could even finding a community there in such a short amount of time. So it was very much like part of me was like, you know, I was perceived as like having an accent, which was so odd for me because I always thought, because when I speak Spanish, I don't have a Cuban accent at all. So I always thought that like, oh, my accent must be closer to Mexican Spanish. It's very much not. Like maybe Californian Mexican Spanish, because that is what I was raised around more than Cuban Spanish. But even then, like it was evident that we were not from Mexico going there. Even for myself, you know, being fluent, like my Spanish is just different. And so it's like being sort of like questioned on that was like definitely kind of a wake up call and checking for myself. Like, okay, check yourself, you know, like, yes, you're not going to immediately fit into this completely different city in a completely different country. Oh no, low battery. Can you still see my face?
Now I can. It went away for a second.
Okay. I think I'll have enough battery to last to the end.
Okay. Well, actually, it's kind of perfect timing.
You have
We
to go
have
through.
maybe like 8 minutes. So
Cool.
keep going. I'm like,
Oh, I mean, that's all. I was just, it was just funny because like I definitely changed the direction of that. I'm like responding to you, and then I'm like, actually, let me talk about my experience with language, but it's all kind of related. So with that though, we joined. It all kind of relates. We joined actually a CrossFit gym. So for the month we were in Cuernavaca, we joined this CrossFit gym, and it was one of, first of all, the greatest fitness experiences we both had. Neither one of us had done CrossFit before, right? Yeah. We wanted to stay active during our time there, and it was such a good experience, honestly, because like exercise wise it was challenging, but the people there were so welcoming, like it's so welcoming. And I just remember distinctly like, well, we had a lot of support, but it wasn't like we were singled out as like, oh, you're different, you're not from here, and also you don't do CrossFit, so you don't know what you're doing. I just felt like, oh, here, you know, there are all these options of different things you can do, accommodations, modifications, like you're a part of the class though. And I remember by like, because we would go several times a week. It was 4 full weeks we were there. And like by the end, I remember like it was like our last morning there, I think. Somebody had a birthday and we were like part of this little like birthday celebration. And it was just like, it just felt like it did feel like a little community, like, wow, in that amount of time, like we were able to kind of integrate ourselves into that. And not to sound too, you know, just like idealistic and just like happy warm times, but like it was just a very significant experience that, you know, we were not expecting. We didn't expect to be signing up for a CrossFit gym, but we both had a great time. And like it's kind of those kind of just like everyday experiences, like this is not like a very, you know, like international gym where like people who are traveling come and train. Like no, it's like people who live in Cuernavaca.
Yeah. I don't even remotely remember this birthday thing that you're talking about, but
it's so random, the things nice. I remember distinctly, like don't mind me.
No, I don't remember anything. But what I did want to say quickly was that I will never forget that the first day we went to CrossFit was the day before we went to climb the fucking pyramids.
Oh my gosh,
I will never
such a
forget
joy.
that. I had not been working out for months and months and months. We went to do CrossFit.
What is like the hardest thing?
The hardest, we were doing like a shit ton of like lunge, like a
Yeah.
squats, which to be honest, before that time, I had never done squats. I had done like other exercises, but
Yeah.
like I was just not used to that. Anyway, then we get to the pyramids and I like think I'm gonna die. Like I felt like I was
remember you.
going to die. I was complaining so much. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that I climbed all of the pyramids to the top. Like it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was like one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But I remember like, especially we started with like a small little pyramid climbing it.
Yep.
And I was like walking, like I was like holding my legs and like,
I know.
and I was like, why did we think this was a good idea? I
Didn't even think, there was no thought.
no thought happened, but that was literally one of the funniest times, memories of my life.
I remember like the first one, you were like, oh, okay, I did that. And then it was like, oh, now that was just the warm up. Now here's all the pyramids. And you gotta, like, you don't have to, but you should. And you were like, okay, I'm going to. But it was like, and it was so worth it. We have some great photos from it. It was beautiful. It was super historical and interesting. But oh yeah, that was funny.
That was amazing. I think that maybe, you know what would be fun? Recommendations, because we have a recommendation section coming up before we end. What if we do like a recommend? I don't remember where we were in a lot of places, but like recommendations based on our trip. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, you go first. I
think it's a great idea. First though, I want to wrap this part up with the anecdote of,
oh my gosh.
What were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
The worst sunburns we've ever experienced.
I was thinking about saying that. Yes.
It has to be said. Like, we were ill. I think we got sun poisoning. No, I think we've concluded that.
We were ill.
Absolutely did.
Yeah.
This was in Acapulco. Or wait, was it?
It was.
Because we went there for like a little weekend trip, which that could be
laid out the entire day directly in the sun. I think maybe we put on sunscreen once.
I remember it was at the beginning, like token amount of sunscreen, like, yeah, because you're supposed to do this.
And we drank all day in the sun, laying there, not moving. And then we got inside and we're like, I think I'm gonna die.
Yeah, it actually felt like that. And we're both not dark people. Like, let's be honest. Like, maybe we were a little more, huh?
They can see.
Mind you, you can tell. And maybe we were a little more tan at that point, but like, not enough to only apply sunscreen once. So, that goes to say, like, there were struggles, but it was so worth it. Also, I have to give again these shout outs that no one is going to like hear, but our host family was wonderful, like loving woman.
Amazing.
What?
I'm saying she was amazing.
Oh, I thought you were saying something else. Yeah, she was amazing. As for recommendations, I think we both recommended that book that in Spanish is called Mexico Profundo, and in English,
I think it's like Imaginary Mexico or something.
Oh, I think it is. Wait, you should look it up.
Okay, go ahead.
As for locations, oh my gosh. Okay, are we doing like location recommendations?
Whatever you want us to be.
Yeah. In case you ever find yourself in Mexico, just happen to find yourself there. I would say that two of my favorite, because we would do like outings on the weekends, because it was like class during the day, during the week, 4 days a week, and then we would go do little like trips around the area. So we were mainly in the state of Morelos, which is kind of like south central east. We also went to Guerrero, where the city Tasco is, which is a gold mining. No, silver.
Yeah.
I mixed my minerals up. But outside of Tasco, it was in the state of Guerrero. We went to these incredible caves. Do you remember the caves?
I don't think I went in the cave.
It's okay if you don't remember them. I wish I had the exact name, but there are these spectacular caves. It's in the state of Guerrero near the town of Tasco. So hopefully that narrows it down. It's really interesting because I have I have some claustrophobia, but at the same time, which I would think would affect my experience in caves. But I think caves are one of the most fascinating things ever. Are you remembering
I
that
just
now?
remembered it. No,
Yeah.
I just remembered it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish
And
it.
these were huge. There were all these pathways. They were massive. They were incredible. And that was just an experience that stood out to me and stuck with me a lot. So if you find yourself specifically in Guerrero, go to the caves by Tasco. They're amazing. I also really loved the little town of Tepoztlan, which I believe is also in Morelos, near Cuernavaca. That was where there was that one pyramid we could climb to, and then there were all the markets. And you hung out in the town.
I didn't hike. Yeah, I remember
the pyramid.
Yeah.
I didn't climb it. That sounds intense. It was a hike. It wasn't I'm scaling a pyramid.
No, it seemed intense, and I didn't want to do it, so I didn't do it. I went shopping.
Yeah, Tepoztlan, love it. I literally have, I don't have my keys with me right now, but I still have a little keychain from there that has stayed for 3.5 years. I don't know how long that's been on
I
my
don't know, it's been a while. Okay.
Those are my recommendations.
Love it. I think that mine is going to be basic, and it's just going to be going to the pyramids. They were in Tenochtitlan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Asking you. I was pretty sure that's what it was. I thought that those pyramids were amazing. That was that felt like a spiritual experience. There's a couple other places that honestly, I really enjoyed Acapulco. I love a beach, and I love sitting at a beach. I love getting sun poisoning. There was somewhere, where did we get mole?
Oh,
that was so good. We should remember. Was it Pueblo?
Yes, it was. It was.
Okay. I feel like I keep saying words and I'm trying to say them with an accent and I sound horrible. So please ignore it,
you
folks.
Don't.
I can speak better sometimes.
You have a really good accent.
Thanks for saying that. But I think it was there. Oh my gosh, the mole was so good.
So good. I never had mole either because I was a little bratty kid and
I hadn't either.
But it was incredible. Yeah, the food was just incredible also.
Everything was amazing. Last thing, I have to go in a second, but the title is the same. It's just the second part of the title. This is the picture, which is Reclaiming a Civilization.
Okay, cool. So it
by Guillermo Bonfil Batalla.
Yeah, I remember that guy. What a guy.
But all right. Well, let's wrap it up because I have to go on a call in a minute.
You do. Yeah. So that was our episode on our experience in Mexico. We will have our next episode out within the next few weeks. We're trying to post monthly, maybe a little sooner, but not longer than a month between episodes. And we hope you all have a great holiday season. My Google Home in the kitchen literally just responded and said, sorry, I don't know what you're talking about, basically.
Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to subscribe and follow us on social media. Our Instagram and Twitter is Cozy Cafe Chats, and email us if you want to complain about my Spanish pronunciation at cozy chats at gmail.com. I'm not going to read the password. And we will see you later.
Oh, we both said later. That is
it's fine. I don't remember what it was.
I don't either.